Hi, good evening, everyone. Uh, Today we'll look at uh, what are the how do you navigate questions that are uncomfortable in a MBA interview. Need not be just an MBA interview, any interview for that matter. So this has a lot of myths that you carry with you, and it's important for you to keep in mind that you have to break these myths to where do well, because there are a lot of people who will say that you should do this, not do this, this is okay in an interview, not okay in an interview. I think we are here to help you understand what is it that you would actually what is it that makes interviews go better, and what are the do's and don'ts that you should keep in an interview. Hi GP. GP, are you muted? No.
Yeah, now I'm not muted.
Okay. So, um, so we will look at we'll take about 40-45 minutes trying to understand what are the uncomfortable questions that normally the panelists ask, and also take a perspective on what is okay and what is not okay. So I think before we get on with specific questions, I think it is worthwhile understanding what is it that the panel is actually looking at you, what are they expecting from you, and obviously, uh, I mean, if there are any mistakes that you are doing in terms of expectations as far as a panel is concerned, I think you should be aware of what kind of errors would you end up doing. So, um, simple things is, I think, first and foremost is uh, panel is looking at you and saying that, are you self-aware? Do you know what you're saying? Do you understand what you're thinking? Right? It doesn't mean that you got to be a perfect, right? I think perfection, the best answers, answers without any, I mean, absolutely blemishless answers are not things that they're looking at. They're looking at things that you are aware of, and you don't have to necessarily always put the perfect front um, of yours in front of the panel. um, they're looking at how mature the panel, I mean, the student um, is a student aware about his issues? Does he own up his issues, or he is actually pushing all the issues and externalizing the reasons for not doing something or not, right? The victim mindset. Third is the accountability and excuses. I think these are normally the common errors that students do, right? I mean, उसकी वजह से गलती हो गई है, मेरी वजह से नहीं है, right? So these are broadly, in my view, these are some of the key things that you must keep in mind while uh, looking at interviews. GP, you want to add anything to this?
Yeah, Shubku, in fact, I would go a step further and say if I have made a mistake, if I have made wrong decision in life and then taken corrective actions, it is perfectly fine to not only share it, I would in fact say it is a good strategy to talk about it in the interview.
Hmm.
That I made this mistake, I corrected it, now this is where I am. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with it. In fact, it will show you in a very, very positive light. A couple of days ago,
Students are
the
also thinking that they need to be perfect to crack an interview.
परफेक्ट तो कोई भी नहीं होता यार है ना वो जो परफेक्ट चैट जीपीटी वाला परफेक्शन है ना दैट इज गोइंग टू बी द बिगेस्ट रीजन फॉर पीपल गेटिंग रिजेक्टेड
Hmm.
this season it started last season but this season I'm seeing most of the answers are AI generated and it
Hmm.
is very easy to find out that they are AI generated and they are not the genuine answers. Okay?
Hmm.
So, secondly, please remember most of these AI generated answers are like the US answers. There will be a B school in US might be happy listening to it, but India में नहीं चलते हैं. India में the language you use, the way you give your answer are very very different. So my suggestion first of all is AI वगैरह को साइड पे रखो अपनी औकात पे आ जाओ जो हो उसकी बात करो. And that is going to be the differentiator for you. In a world where everyone is using AI, a person coming and giving genuine, honest answers will be more appreciated. But coming back to the specific issue at hand, a couple of days ago, I was talking to one of my students. He had flunked one of his semesters, or he had to repeat the semester, and there were some issues because of which he had to repeat the semester. Okay, and he wanted to hide it. To my mind, there was nothing to hide. Yes, I made a mistake. I lost that semester, but next semester I did took double the number of subjects because the college allowed me to do it and passed with flying colors. Okay, so there's a negative. You made a mistake, but the important thing is you realized you made a mistake. You took corrective action, and you ensured that in future it never happens again. So that self awareness is very important. So मेरे हिसाब से all these are item which you should be using actively in the interview. छुपाने की कोई जरूरत नहीं है. I would say उसको बताओ और उसका जो है पॉजिटिव उठाओ.
In fact, ये जो when you're saying chat GPT वाला answers ना, so I was uh, just yesterday only there was a student of mine or some she was having a ISB interview today, right? And मैंने उसको वो वाला पढ़ के पूछा, फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन में पूछा कि ये वाला आपने ही लिखा है क्या, right? And you could see that when she spoke, her English was not the perfect English. But if you look at the essay, it is like absolute perfect. So there needed to be perfect. So it is okay to be not perfect, and I think that's the fundamental thing that all of you must keep in mind, right? And perfection, मेरे हिसाब से किसी का नहीं होता है. So if there are mistakes that you have committed in the past, it is okay, right? And I think you don't have to necessarily put the most eligible student wala front in front of the panel. I think हाँ GP.
हाँ अच्छा इसको उनके इसको ले लेते हैं फिर मैं उसके बाद बात करता हूँ. या
So when we talk about mistakes, and we said, I think there are fundamentally two or three things that you must keep in mind, right? For instance, my scores were not good in a subject, right, or in the semester. It happens to a lot of students, right? Their first two semester scores are a little low because suddenly there's this newfound freedom in college, and then it goes up slowly, and people try to kind of cover that up. I think it is okay to say that I didn't do well because I was a little distracted, right? I think a lot of students come from tremendous amount of pressure in 11th and 12th preparing for JE or whatever, and when they come to 11th and 12th, I think the sudden release of pressure, some people are not able to manage it. But the what is important is what happened after that. Have you changed, right?
yeah.
Did you make course correction? I think that is very critical. So that's one. um, the other thing is I think contextually, right? Why it happened, what has happened, right? Instead of doing too much of, there are some times where you kind of goofed up in something, and you could put the blame on somebody else. For example, we have, sir, it was not interesting, maza nahi aa raha tha, right? Teacher was not good enough. These are normally some of the things that we hear, that it was not exciting, that other person did not make it exciting, hence I didn't study. But I think it is important to say that I didn't study because I didn't study. I didn't feel like studying. Because there are a lot of people who still excelled, got a 10 CGPA in spite of the same teacher teaching them. So I think uh, owning up and taking ownership for your own failure, I think it's a important thing. You must understand what you went through while you put up a performance which is not necessarily perfect. So I think that is what happened. It's a very critical thing. I think you must understand what exactly transpired for you to get the outcome that you ended up getting.
And in
Have you?
fact, Shivku, इसमें ना the interesting thing is whenever I am successful, it is to my credit. मैंने
Hmm,
किया है. Whenever I have failed, it is someone else's fault. If the successes are yours, the failures are also yours. That
correct.
is what you need to remember. You cannot externalize the blame. The blame lies with you. The credit is with you. The debit is with you. Okay. So please don't look at externalizing. Take ownership of what you did. Ask yourself why did it happen, and how, and what did you after do after that, so that it does not repeat itself. Okay, okay. There's a question, Shivku. Can't owning up backfire sometimes?
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's typically what I think every student looks at. I think it is being honest. It is being authentic. I think what will backfire is if you're not authentic. I mean, if I get poor marks, I am not going to say. I mean, I would have to accept ki I didn't do well. I didn't study. Right? What else could it be? Right? So it is as simple as that. It will. I don't think it will ever backfire unless you did something very stupid, which anyway would have backfired whether you spoke the truth or not. Right? I don't think they are looking at punishing you for your mistakes. That's fundamental hypothesis that I have for any interviews. They are actually okay. They realize that students do mistakes. They have seen generation after generation of students. I think
And
every
they have
student makes
themselves
the
made
same mistake.
mistakes. Yeah.
Ah,
Hmm.
so there is. It's okay. I mean, I don't think it will backfire. Don't worry about it.
And I'll just agree with what Shivku said. Owning up will not backfire. Hiding it will definitely backfire. So owning up, let me rephrase that. Owning up may or may not backfire, but hiding will definitely backfire, because end of the day, as an interviewer, I can make out ये जो बोल रहा है सही नहीं है. I may not be aware, I may not be able to find out what is the exact truth, but I'll usually be able to find out yeah ये ठीक नहीं लग रहा है. Either person is fibbing or whatever. Okay, okay. So my session always would be this. What Shivku said. हाँ गलती हो गई है. This is how I corrected it, and this is what I've learned from it, and I've moved on. Okay.
And there are so many examples that we can quote across our experience. I remember one student lost 2 semesters because he was on a substance abuse, and uh, the fact that they are, I mean, he couldn't have I mean it's very, I mean, he would have, somebody else would have said ki batao mat, right? But the fact that his performance was poor, and then he ended up fighting that, got over it, I think that itself was a story, right?
Hmm.
So when he actually said this in the interview moved to a very different plane. How did you get over it? What did you do? Right? And then the fact is that he finally got admitted into that college. So
And,
I
and,
don't,
and
I
just to
mean,
be clear, Shiku, we are talking about the top IIMs also. IIM A,
correct.
B, CL, XL, FMS. We are talking about these institutes also where these things work, because the people who are interviewing are the same.
Absolutely. So बिल्कुल नहीं, आई थिंक. सो सेकंड जो बहुत ही कॉमन है, एक तो इश्यूज है मेरा स्कोर कम हो गया, सो फर्स्ट थिंग इज मैंने गलती की, पढ़ाई नहीं की, वो सब कुछ है. द सेकंड बिग question that we have is how do I cover up my gap years, right? Is it bad in the first place? I think there is this, people have this judgment, or they have already judged because they have seen it in Reddits and other places ki gap year is bad, right? But I don't I have never subscribed to that. Gap year is bad if the only thing that you did in the entire life was do 10 hours of cat training. If you did not do anything else, then probably the gap year will sound not so great, right? But there are people who have used gap year for significant. There, there is nothing wrong in saying that I took a pause in my life. I'm reflecting on what I have been doing, what I want to do, right? And moved on. There are people who have taken gap after 3 years of work experience. There are people who have taken a gap after 4 years of work experience. Somebody who's taken a gap after graduation. I think it is okay. It's very common in the countries outside. India mein thoda we look at it from a taboo kind of a thing. But I think gap year is okay. It is about looking at yourself and saying what next, as long as there is a productive work that happened in this. So if you can justify, I don't think there's anything in, no problem with the gap year. And I haven't seen any case of students being punished for gap years unless somebody comes and tells me 1.5 years I did nothing but preparing for cat. तब
Yeah.
तब शायद आपको लगेगा.
Shivku, in fact, इसमें ना gap year में I will want to give 2-3 examples. One example is a recent example. You know about the person. I'm not going to take his name. He, after completing his graduation engineering from ITBHU, He started preparing for civils, and for 5 years he prepared for civils. That's unsuccessful. After that, he prepared for CAT and took CAT. And in the interview, he said exactly that. I was preparing for civil, interested in civil, so that is why I took it. I failed, but I have to build my career and to move on. So I'm here in front of you because I want to build a career in the corporate world. He was selected. I am Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, all three. Okay, so 5 year gap. I can again give another example. You could remember this person also 2012-13, Krishnam. Okay.
Hmm.
This
Hmm.
person in 2004 he joined IIT Kanpur. For 2 years he did not study, and because he did not meet the minimum academic criteria, he was chucked out of the institute in 2006. Okay. Then he again for 2 years he just wasted his time, did nothing. Finally, his parent convinced him to join IGNU for correspondence course in graduation. He started that in 2008. A course we should have finished in 2000. In 3 years, he took 4 years for that, and then he started working on CUPSC. Okay, so sorry, 2004, 2006, 2006 to 2006 to 9, 10 he did this, and 2010 to 12 he worked for UPSC, again failed. Then he took CAT. So when he went for his interview, he had 8 years of graduation because that means the amount of time he took to complete his graduation, and he had zero work experience. What Why he converted IIM Ahmedabad and Bangalore? He did his MBA from IIM Ahmedabad then. Okay, so please remember there are multiple cases we can give you. Okay, one of the other case, let me take that up again. Okay, this stoned, and many people have a issue with the mental ailments कि यार ये
Hmm.
इसको पागल तो नहीं समझेंगे if I talk about the fact that I had trauma, or I was not let's say there was some mental illness कि I'll be branded as an idiot or a madman, schizophrenia. So these kind of things we have seen. I have had a student who was again 2011 he graduated from Bombay University. 1 year he worked in the corporate world, and then he was diagnosed with schizophrenia or some of these things, and he was under treatment for 7 years. 2018 he went for CAT, and then when he went for the interview, he had again 7 years of gap. He converted to Bangalore and Kozhikode. So let's be clear about it. There's no problem with gap year. The problem is in your mind, not in the interview. The interviewer is not at all worried about it. ये तुम्हारे दिमाग का फतूर है कि गैप ये अच्छा नहीं होता है. The only thing you should be clear about is what has been written on the right hand side. What is the right way? Why is the gap year there? I had a gap year because I wanted to give IIT JEE another shot, and hence I dropped out and prepared again. What they are looking for is the reason and logic for the gap year. At that point of time, when you took the gap year, what was the logic? You should not force fit the current scenario into the past and say, अच्छा ये इसलिए है तो इसको खिलाफ करेंगे. उस टाइम पे that was the best decision for you or the right decision for you. If you think उस टाइम पे gap लेना was a wrong decision, you can always say that. Yeah, I took that gap because of this reason, but in hindsight, maybe I should not have done it. That's a hindsight. But at that point of time, so what they're looking for is what was the logic or reason behind taking that step at that point of time. Okay.
Absolutely. The third, I think people find it. A lot of people, and it's a reality that a lot of people uh, seriously help the parents or the family in their family business, or that's one category. The second category is the category that is trying to uh, justify the break by saying that I am working with my family, but they have, in reality have not. So there is one category that has worked, the other category that has not worked with family business. Now, uh, if I am a panelist and if somebody says that I have worked with my family business, right? I think there is always going to be a, I am going to believe it with a pinch of salt, right? Because बहुत सारे लोग they take this advantage and try to say things that they have actually not done. But I personally believe that having a family business is a actually a great thing to have when you're thinking about doing a course in business management, because I think day in day out there's a lot of things that are happening at home. I believe the discussions and all those things, a lot of it must be centered around business. I'm sure it happens very subliminally. Business is entering your way of thinking. Maybe some of you have also involved with your parents, right? Help them run their businesses. So if you have a family business, I believe whether you have worked with the business or not, it's imperative that you know about your business. You can't say I want to become a consultant, change the world by changing the revenue models and all that, but I have no idea about what's happening at my home. So understanding your immediate context is very critical. Understanding your business, I believe, is very important. So family business can be a great advantage. It can be a it's like a double-edged sword. It can be a great advantage if you know about it, if you have actually genuinely helped. It would be a great disadvantage if it's been there right in your home and you have done nothing about it. GP?
हाँ, इनफैक्ट फैमिली बिजनेस का जो है इसमें द सिंपल रूल टू अंडरस्टैंड इज you want to get into business but you don't have any idea of your family business. What does that tell me about you? It tells me you are not interested in business. Okay. If so, secondly, many students I come out and say, sir, मेरे को अपना कुछ करना है, family business नहीं अच्छा भाई, तू भी तो family business ही चालू करेगा. Okay, and if you'll be able to do your own business, it will be essentially because of the backing of your family also. Secondly, even if you don't want to join your family business, which is perfectly fine, you should know the business and you should know the reasons why. What is it? What is the reason behind you taking this decision? Okay. So, but the important thing again is to understand you cannot reject something without understanding it. So, family business to मालूम होना चाहिए है. If you have a family business and you don't have any knowledge or understanding of your family business, that to me tells me completely कि तुम्हें अपने business का कुछ idea नहीं है, तुम्हें business में interest नहीं है. That's all. So all you are saying in the interview apart from that is completely useless. Okay. Okay. And I would always say, if you have got part time in family business, say part time kiya. That because of my college, I could not study I could not do it full time. I did part time, or because I wanted to have, well, my family business is there, and I go there part time also, but I also have a separate job because I want to get that exposure. Perfectly fine. But whether you are working or not, I'm again repeating myself, whether you're working your family business or not, you need to have good knowledge and understanding of your business. Okay. उसके बिना काम नहीं चलेगा.
And इसमें I think छोटा बड़ा कोई वो नहीं है. I mean, even if your dad owns a kirana store, I
Yeah.
think the understanding of business is basically the same. So if you feel a little ashamed to mention that, I mean, you don't, you have no reason to be, right? I think it's, even if it's a small shop, whatever contribution that you could do, because I think you're going to, there are so many things that you can learn, right? How do you do inventory management? How do you do cash flows, right? How do you uh, manage your shelf arrangement? There's so many things that even a small kirana store is expected to do, right? And how do you retain your customers? I mean, today your nearest kirana store is also doing delivery, is doing what Zomatos and all these guys, they have already actually been doing long time back. जो Zomato अभी करता है या Blinkit जो करता है, you remember when 20 years back you can make a call to your nearest kirana store and he would deliver it to you. So understand that whatever it is, there is nothing big or small. You don't have to have a 100 crore company to say that I am proud of being a part of this. So that is one. Secondly, GP, I think a lot of people have I feel issue where the prof or whoever says that why are you not joining a family business
Yeah.
after a
नहीं, see, there are multiple reasons why you may not want to join my family business, but again, to me, the starting point is business के बारे में मालूम होगा उसके तभी तुम decide कर सकते हो ना. Decision cannot be taken just because it's a kirana store. Okay. So to me, the question would always be, what is your knowledge or understanding of your business based on which you are saying this is not worth joining or not. Okay. Secondly, not joining family business could also be because my family or even I want to have some exposure and later on I will come back and join the business. Okay,
correct.
which is also fine. Many people do that. That work for a few years outside, because once you're working inside the family business, you will learn to do the business the same way it has been conducted so far. Yes, you coming in will possibly create some changes, but if you come after working for a few years, you're possibly going to get fresh ideas into the system or the best practices from other companies and the industry into your system. So it is
Correct.
perfectly fine from that point of view.
I remember. I think there are also some cases where uh, the dad himself or the owner of the business himself says कि तुम अभी नहीं join करोगे, तुम काम बाहर काम करके आओगे और join करोगे. I remember that SRCC student uh,
हाँ.
whose dad had a listed company, right? One of those textile companies. I remember talking to him and said कि my dad has very clearly said कि तुम अभी immediately नहीं join करोगे. 3-4 साल बाहर काम करोगे, you learn the outside world and then come back and join my business. That also is a way of professionalizing your own organization, and I think uh, those are definitely possibilities that you will have. The next, failures in life, right? How do I, because I want to put the best foot forward, or how can I own up to failures, right? I mean, is it a good talk about failures? Because हम strengths and weaknesses भी जो देखते हैं सेस में, सारे weaknesses तो strengths ही है, right?
हाँ,
And
वीकनेस ऐसी होती है कि वीकनेस होती नहीं है.
weakness नहीं होती है. So I think people are generally a little worried about showcasing failures, right? And I think it is probably natural, where you feel that if I if I kind of put forth a view or perspective that I'm a failure, why would they select me, right? But I think it's natural. All of us go through failures. I think what you take out of the failure is the most important thing. Do you understand the reason for the failure? Do you own up? If you are somebody who's owning up, you have the ability to bounce back from failures. Those are definitely the things that you must take care of. I mean, all those students who took 8. For example, this guy who had a 5 year, the ITBHU student who had 5 UPSC attempts. Very brilliant guy, very very sharp kid. He couldn't clear UPSC in 5 attempts. I'm sure that he went through a lot of, those feeling self doubt, failure. पहली चीज है, मुझे लगता है फेलियर का सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है कि are you able to get over the self doubt that you have about yourself? If you are able to deal with that, I think you will be able to deal with a question that comes from an interview. If you're not able to deal with your own failure, I think there's no way you will be able to convince the other one. So don't worry about how the other person or the panelist will look at you. Your failures are okay, right? It is like the first one, mistakes जो हुआ है ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं है. So um, I think that to me is the way I look at failures in life.
Hmm. Yeah. देखो, to me, as Shipko has said, failure and mistake फंडा से क्लियर होना चाहिए है. Failures have happened because I was not equipped. I made some mistakes, whatever it is. Identify that issue for yourself. Why did the failure happen? And don't blame the world for it. Whatever has happened, you have taken certain decisions because of which things are. There can always be a situation, the market change or something happened. If that's the case, you can always talk about it. But that failure issue is by and large your issue. You have to accept the failure. You have to identify the reason why it happened, and you have to also look at what is the corrective action you took after that. And that's the end of the story. We have just talked about the IT BHU guy, we have talked about IT Kanpur guy, and there are multiple such people. Multiple such people. Failures happen. It is your job to get up because in life, failures will happen. In business, failures will happen. You have to deal with those failures, take corrective action, keep moving on. That is what they're trying to look at you from that lens only.
Okay, I think it is very very important just to kind of capture what's the reset story, what did you do, what went wrong, why it went wrong, and what was it that, how did it change you as a person, right? Those are the things that you must be able to figure out. Key, these are the learnings from a failure. um, I think this is also similar, right? There is
Yeah.
whether it is challenges, health wise, academic wise, personal crisis, कुछ भी है. So the
Hmm.
question is, sir, मेरा तो personal issues है. Can I speak about personal issues? मेरा professional issues है. For example, I came across a student who was actually fired from job, and this was during one of those, I think, COVID times, or right, and he was very ashamed to talk about the fact that he was fired, right? Now, how do you deal with a question where, I mean, if I say I was fired because the organization thought I'm not fit enough, right? I think what is important is not about that gap year where you are fired. It is about the fact that somebody rehired you, right? And gave you a good job, which is as good, if not better, than the previous job. So your ability to bounce, I think, is crucial. Any personal crisis, any challenges, health issues, don't worry about it. Right? I think it can. And this question about will it become, लोगों को लगेगा कि मैं sympathy I mean जोड़ रहा हूँ. I mean I'm collecting sympathy. No, it need not be. I mean, if you want to get sympathy from the panelists, I am sure your body language, the tone that you use will obviously say that. But if you're very authentic, trust me that I think most people can perceive what you are. Are you looking for sympathy, or are you stating what you have? So that's this is broadly uh, the perspective that I have over issues like challenges in health and all that.
Hmm. Yeah. एंड इसमें ना दिस इज where I say कि आपने पर्सनल इश्यूज को डालने में कोई बुराई नहीं है. See, understand, please understand that you are your situation, your circumstances determine lots of things for you. If you have had certain medical or health issues, whether physical or mental does not matter, you would be working in a certain way. Okay. For example, a few days ago, not few days, in fact, ago also, last year also, there was a student with me. He had the physical issues, well, not physical issues, but had medical issues. Sorry, because of which he had to be, let's say, could not do too much of physical activities. Okay? Had to be in a kind of a hygienic environment. So obviously, sports and games were completely ruled out. Now, if that student does not tell in the interview, this is my medical condition, एज एन इंटरव्यू थिंक है क्या कैसा बच्चा है स्पोर्ट्स में कभी कुछ किया नहीं कभी खाली पढ़ाई किया और कुछ नहीं किया बट द फैक्ट वाज दैट किड कुड नॉट go out for sports and games because of the medical issue where he had to be in a kind of a hygienic environment only. Okay? So you have to give this not to gain sympathy. This has to tell the panel that these are the restrictions, these are the constraints under which I have lived, and within these constraints, this is what I have done. Okay? So please don't get down to this part कि यार ये बताने में क्या होगा उनको बुरा तो नहीं लगेगा will they think I am seeking sympathy. No, I will add one more thing. Financial issues. Yeah, my family had financial issues. Does that mean if I talk about in the interview, does that mean I'm downplaying or downgrading or making fun of my family? No, you're not downgrading your family. Neither are you asking for sympathy. You're saying, given this situation, I was in this situation and I had to put in that effort. Last year, not last year, a couple of years ago, student who got IIM Lucknow and FMS both decided to join FMS, and the family was financial background was fairly weak, and he always worked with studied with borrowed books, okay, and no tuition at all. Okay, many of us take tuition for granted. So he studied on his own. So I told him that is what you should say in the interview. So whatever is your situation, whether it's medical, health, personal, financial, whatever it is, if you do not tell the panel what the constraints were under which you worked, I will never be able to appreciate your performance. Okay? So that is very, very important.
And I think outcome of any of this is obviously, I think they're going to look at, whatever you said. It's about your emotional resilience, decision making under stress, growth mindset. I think these are maybe big words to use, but fundamentally they are saying, do you have the ability to take on challenges? I think um, as a manager, I think I'm sure you will come across a huge amount of challenges, lots of failures in your careers, and you will have your midlife crisis. You'll have a wondering which direction you're headed. There's so many things that are bound to happen in a career, and your ability to handle all of this will, in one sense, be reflected, or I mean projected by the way you have been handling things in the past, and you don't have to be ashamed of any of this. So, I mean, summarizing all of this, don't get very defensive. Don't put, you know, मेरे वजह से नहीं, किसी और के वजह से, right? The blaming other वाला game भी नहीं होना चाहिए. Um, and also the other side of it, I mean, I mean, you don't want to carry this airs and attitude कि I have no weaknesses. That also is a big mistake. कि मैं मेरी कोई गलती नहीं है, मेरी कोई गलती हो ही नहीं सकती है, अगर होगी तो किसी और की गलती होगी, राइट? आई थिंक that really can put off people. And over explaining small issues where you're trying to defend everything that's happening. I think there are things that happen when you fail, you did something. I mean, it's very simple. I got low marks because I didn't study, right? Instead of trying to say, "Sir, mera, I got distracted by I was not able to uh, uh, adjust to my first year." Those could be the reasons, but try not doing too much of justifications. Accept the fact that you didn't study, because people who are distracted, many people in the same state as you in the first semester, second semester, but they probably got better uh, percentile because they studied. So effort, the fact that you didn't put in effort, uh, is probably the reason for some of those outcomes. So please be very simple. Don't do over explaining. I think over explaining, anyway they will not let you do that. People can see through it, right? So I think if you have any other questions.
शुक्र है सब क्वेश्चन एक बार देखते हैं.
uh,
ओके ओके 96.2 percentile 989 no gap 4 plus years work experience got no other. Okay. What could have been a blocker? Yeah, multiple things. Yeah. Please remember, there it is your 8 in graduation could be an issue. Your 96.2 could be an issue. Your 4 years work experience could have been an issue. So each institute looks at the same thing differently. So I don't think we should worry about what could be the issue. The important thing for you, Ananya, is that you have got MDI call and you should look at working to a converted. Okay, so again, rather than worrying about क्या हो सकता था जो है उस पे फोकस करो. Don't worry about it. Another question, Shipu. If someone says that I prepared for CAT as first attempt, I secured 56 percentile, in second attempt scored 99.78 percentile, 2 years of gap. I gave my first attempt. So please answer what, Utsav? Okay. So if someone says what happens, that's okay. First time you got 56, now you have got 99.78. Great, good performance. Now what is that you're expecting me to tell you? कि अच्छा है कि बुरा है, कुछ इसमें प्रॉब्लम नहीं दिखती मुझे as such.
2 years of gap के बारे में पूछ रहा है क्या?
मेरे को मालूम नहीं क्या पूछ रहा है कि 2 साल का गैप कैसे गए, तो 2 साल के गैप का रीजन बताना होगा. Why was the gap? I was preparing for CAT. I tried to get a job, did not get a job. Whatever is the real reason. Also, my suggestion always is don't create a reason. Whatever is the real reason, that is what you should share in the interview.
So इसका इश्यू है जीपीओ 2 year गैप को कैसे जस्टिफाई करेगा, राइट? एंड अगर 2 year गैप में सिर्फ तुमने कैट की तैयारी की और कुछ नहीं की, I think you will have a little bit of issues to justify, of course, but marks are good. 99.78 is extremely good marks, but तुमको कुछ तो दिखाना पड़ेगा कि to say कि boss I did something else beyond only studying for CAT. What
Shivku, let me take the other extreme. कुछ भी नहीं किया इसने. Supposing he did nothing but prepared for CAT, what can you say then? That's the only thing you will say. Will it be negative? Yes, it will be a small negative, but it will be more than compensated by the fact that you have done very well in CAT. Okay. And you will have to show them why was it necessary for you to prepare for CAT for this 2 years rigorously. And so otherwise, maybe you not may not have got the score. Okay. So outcome also in some way will be able to help you in if I can use the word justify. I don't want to use the word justify because to me it is not a question of justifying the gap. It is a question of telling them what why did it happen. जस्टिफिकेशन के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से देखोगे तो यानी मैंने कोई गलती की थी उसको सुधारना है.
Correct.
There's another one. 3 years gap but joined NGO for 1 year and part-time check. Can this provide me immunity? Now again, Lohit, it is question is incomplete or other information given is incomplete. Why was the 3 year gap there? That is what you should be telling us, and then I can say tell anything. But 99 out of 100 times, if you share the honest reason why that gap was there, it is perfect. That you'll sail through. Okay? You will not be rejected because of the gap, is what I can say. I gave you that example of that kid from IT Kanpur who took 8 years to complete his graduation and he had zero work experience. In fact, 4 years gap between them. If he could convert both A and B, then why is the 3 year gap something to be worried about? In the interview, I was very honest about it. Yes, I goofed up. In hindsight, I made a mistake, but I've corrected that and started doing this. And here I'm sitting in front of you with a 99.7 odd percentile in CAT. Okay. So the issue is you have to own up your mistake. He made a mistake, he owned it up. You and explain the gap in that way. So you're not justifying the gap, you're explaining the gap. There's a subtle difference between the two, which I hope you understand. Okay, 9 month CAT prep क्या तो कुछ होता ही नहीं यार. 1 year work experience, 10 month low scores, joining MBA this year. Okay.
How can I confidently frame my answer for the gap year during MBA interview?
ये सच बता के अपने आप हो जाता है. देखो, one of the reasons मैं हमेशा लोगों को बोलता हूँ सच बोलने के लिए, because then you don't have to remember. Automatically you will tell the correct thing. If you create a story, quite possibly there will be some logical flaw in the story and some way or the other you will get caught. So the moment you start creating a story, you will end up creating confusion for yourself. Okay. So क्या नाम है इसका, सिद्धार्थ. सिद्धार्थ जो भी है ना, रियल रीजन डाल दो, सोचो मत ज्यादा.
ठीक है जीपी, आई थिंक आई डिड वर्क ऑन माय हेल्थ प्लान. ठीक है,
ठीक है. लॉस ऑफ वेट, ठीक है. नहीं देखो, ये उत्सव, यू आर गिविंग मी द फ्रिंज बेनिफिट. ठीक है कि चलो मैं इसकी वजह से मेरे को ये फायदा हो गया, वो ठीक है. बट वाज दिस द रीजन फॉर गैप? इफ द गैप वाज फॉर कैट प्रिपरेशन, से इट वाज फॉर कैट प्रिपरेशन. वहां बट इसके साथ साथ मैंने अपना हेल्थ को भी सुधार लिया. सो डोंट मेक द फ्रिंज बेनिफिट द कोर बेनिफिट. इट इज स्टिल द फ्रिंज बेनिफिट.
Sir, I took 12 attempts in CA Inter because of my ego.
Ego.
Cleared a
CA final in
but
the first attempt. Okay. Okay. Great. So CA Pranay Gupta. Okay. Pranay, so पहली चीज ये है, you have taken the first step. And this is what you should say in the interview. ईगो बीच में आ गई और 12 अटेम्प्ट लगा दिया, अपना टाइम पर बात कर दिया. इन हाइंडसाइट हाउ आई कैन क्लियरली सी आई वाज वेरी वेरी स्टूपिड. तुमने तो सही आंसर डाल दिया, इसमें हम लोग के कमेंट की जरूरत ही नहीं है. दिस इज व्हाट यू शुड से इन द इंटरव्यू.
okay, I think GP, I think we'll.
I'm not a CA. You're not a CA, that's fine. So सिचुएशन क्या है यार, मेरे को समझ नहीं आया इसका. So Anay, you took 12 attempt in CA Inter. What is it? It will be helpful if you can just write it clearly. क्रिप्टिक में मत डालना. ये एक बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग चीज दिखती है शिवकू मुझे. I have 3.5 year work ex and joining after joining MBA this year. How can I explain this long work ex? So जिसका वर्क एक्स है उसको प्रॉब्लम है कि मेरा वर्क एक्स है, एंड जिसका वर्क एक्सपीरियंस नहीं है उसको प्रॉब्लम है मेरा वर्क एक्सपीरियंस नहीं है. इट सीम्स टू मी दैट एवरीवन इज ट्राइंग टू फाइंड अ फ्लॉ विद इन देमसेल्व्स कि मेरे पास ये नहीं है. ठीक है यार, whenever you decided that you need to do an MBA, that is when you decided. I'll show you people who go for MBA after 5 years, 7 years. Does that make them less eligible for MBA? No. So 3.5 years work ex after joining MBA and joining MBA this year, all you need to do is tell them when did you decide to do MBA? Why? What happened in your career which made you think you want to do MBA? That's all. No one is going to question you on this thing. And even if they say इतने साल बाद क्यों आ रहे हो, बता दो क्यों आ रहे हो. That after my graduation, I wanted to work for a few years and then come for and take get clarity on the way forward and then do MBA. That is what you have to say then. Again, I'll say realistically, be honest. Okay? Whatever is the real reason is what you need to talk about.
By the way, 3 years is where you get the maximum points for work
Now,
ex after, because if they also think that 3 years is a good time.
tell me about should I launch with share Verma bond bottom or yeah, ये तुम्हारी पर्सनल चॉइस है जो तुम्हें ज्यादा अच्छा लगता है ना go with that. The only suggestion I would have is please make sure there's sufficient data for them to substantiate whatever you're saying. One of the biggest problems I find in introduction interviews is claims तो बहुत सारे होते हैं but those claims को support करने के लिए data नहीं देते. I'm very hardworking, I do this, I do that, I'm this kind of person, that kind of person, but data कुछ नहीं है. ठीक है? So don't make claims, give data to support your claims. ये क्या है यार? Can I get I am Ahmedabad starting preparation? NKW starting preparation का क्या मतलब हुआ यार? Great. So Siddharth, that's you have the answer. This is what you have to say. But again, remember, this is not the core. This is the fringe benefit. The core reason why you had a gap, why did you decide to quit your job, is the first thing. And along with that, in that gap period, these are the additional things I've done. So both of them have to be given. शिवको, I guess there are no more questions. ज्यादा लोगों के
Yeah.
सवाल नहीं है. Yes, हमने कोई बात समझ नहीं आई या सब कुछ समझ आ गया. I don't know what the issue is.
Chalo, guys. I think all the best. I
Yeah.
think.
चलो.
Okay. Bye.
Okay. Good night. Any issues, feel free to connect with us.